Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the greatest show on Earth. Now, with the shameless self-marketing out of the way, let's get right into today's episode of Darkhand After Hours. First off, gonna eat some mango pies because they're absolutely delicious, and they give you some good health for playing in WvWvW. This is actually the second time I'm recording this narration because the first time it bugged out on me. But hopefully, it won't happen again. So, the plan for today is to make a U-turn around this Borderlands map and capture all 5 of the sentries. So, that's the plan anyways. Unfortunately, as you can see by the bar at the very top, we're on Stormbluff. We're red, and we own everything. So, this guard is one of the few things I'll actually be capping today. Let us begin. I waited until the time ticked over to actually displaying at the top of the screen so we can get a running tally of how far we've gotten. And then of course there's the Heartseeker spam, because queuing up moves is what happens. But anyways, the motivation for this was I was reading through the forums on GuildWars2.com, and I saw somebody complaining about solo thieves in World vs. World. And I was like, oh, this sounds like me. So I read in it, I laughed, I cried, I rejoiced, because everybody was annoyed at me, and that always makes me happy. But then I did find this one guy, and I wish I could re-find that article so I could link it, or put a picture of it in the video, but I couldn't. This is all very sarcastic. He was like, you know, I'm glad that we have solo thieves, because each slot they're taking up in World vs. World is one less slot for a competent team player to take, because solo thieves don't actually contribute to their World vs. World team's score. Hibbity-jibbity. I was like, that seems rather silly. Taking a sentry is immediately 1 point for your team, whereas taking a supply camp takes multiple people, and you can only get that 5 points it provides once every 15 minutes. So, the math just did not add up in my head, so I figured I should do a run and see what happens. Fortunately, we already own most of these sentries, which, if I was doing supply camps, the same problem would arise in that we don't really lack any of the supply camps. And the one that we are, we're obviously about to take. So, yeah, lack of enemies actually hurts both forms of World v World point accumulations. However, just gonna spend some time here, pretend I actually am killing and capturing it. I find it takes between 20 and 30 seconds, depending on crits, and the heal to kill a veteran guard and cap his point. Obviously, it would take significantly longer if there were players around, but for now, we're just gonna run through this and see how it works out. So yeah, that's pretty much going to be this video. Is going to be capping all of these. There will be some player kills, because there's always got to be player kills. It just wouldn't be Guild Wars without it. On that note though, there's not really any requirement that when you come into World vs. World you have to be all about World vs. World points all the time. The name of this video is DDH AfterHours. When Guild is running, we're doing it for the team. That's what we do. When I'm running solo, I do it because I want to find everybody else who's solo, but under-leveled or under-geared, and remind them not to come into World vs. World. And I do this in the only way they will probably remember, and that is leading by example. AKA slaughter them faster than they can blink, and they won't come back until they're ready. That's the plan anyways, and we all know how things go when they're according to plan. But here's the 1-2 sentry in the, let me remember how an analog clock works, 9 o'clock position. That's absolutely not right, is it? No, that's right. Yes, in the 9 o'clock position sentry. Now we're going to go to the 6 o'clock position sentry. It actually depends a lot on where you place that clock, if it's too far north. Anyways, at this point in the previous narration, I was talking about PlanetSide 2. Darkhand is making a casual showing in PlanetSide 2. I think it's an awesome game. At the same time, I think it's the most frustrating game on the face of the earth. It kind of varies in between the two extremes. There's not really any point where you're like, yeah, I'm doing mediocre. It's either, yeah, I just snuck up on 8 guys and killed them all, or I just walked into 8 guys and got killed 8 times over in a single burst. And there are hackers and cheaters and all the usual. Hopefully Sony, I believe as the publisher, will be able to straighten that out. But yeah, I did run into a lot of Vanus who would only get headshots, and if you check the scoreboard, it's fairly ridiculous, but whatever. They'll either get it straightened out or they won't, and I'll just stick with Guild Wars all the time. It doesn't make much difference to me. So here I am at the southernmost sentry. There's no argument about this one. This is the 6 o'clock sentry. Huzzah. Now I'm just going to head on. As you notice, this is about the halfway point, but it's not quite 7 minutes yet. We started at 14 minutes, so 7 minutes will be the halfway time. Here, invisible, immobilizing arrow. Number 3, steal. Hit him with a shard, and then just whack. It was a perfect storm of he had not a chance. Oh, that right there, a good example of someone not paying attention, getting cut out. I do hear a lot of QQing on forums also about how thieves are too powerful, their burst is amazing. But if you fight back, you'd be surprised at how quickly a thief will drop. Here I switched to Thieves Guild because my steal is not back up, so I want to have more options available to me. But this person, again, just runs. They don't realize I have 0 additional armor above my base, and if I get hit by something, it's going to hurt me a lot. I lose him for a second, just fire at range, see what direction he swam off in, and then hunt him down. Underwater combat is silly, really. It's not horrible, it's just that it's even harder to do melee combat because now you're in 3 dimensions and you can move freely in all of them. And as soon as the person goes down, this quadruple armor doing 1/3 of the damage. And yeah, it usually just ends up with whichever group has the greater numbers, so they can focus fire someone who's in a down state out. Also, Thief has no AoEs underwater, which is annoying. Not surprising, but annoying. And also, none of the ultimates work underwater except for Basilisk Venom, and Basilisk Venom doesn't work when you're using a spear gun. So, yeah, I'm not a great fan of underwater combat. From what I hear, not many people are. So, we're moving right along. No, I always want to say, and I keep forgetting to say this in videos, that the game looks amazing. I mean, this is probably one of the best looking games I've ever played on a PC, which is not saying a lot because I've only recently got back into PC gaming, but it's still amazing. I mean, just look at it. They obviously put a lot of time and effort into this, and it really shows in the artwork, the architecture. Not so much map layout, but large-scale testing of that is always different from their in-house testing, so it's not entirely their fault. And of course, there's always people exploiting. Now here, because of those 2 people, I was worried I wouldn't get to the finish the sentries in time, so I kind of just ran away from that guy. Not a very realistic simulation of how much time it would take, but it all works out in the end, so I'm not too worried. Here, running through the Minotaur Forest. Also, short bow, that number 5 thing. Oh, they get away all the time. It's kind of horrible. It really does not move you very far, especially if you have some kind of movement speed buff, either swiftness or the Signet of Shadows like I have. Either one of these will move you faster forward and kind of reduces the effectiveness of teleports. Shadow Step is still awesome because it has a 1200 range, but a 900 range on a short bow shot that you have to wait for it to actually do the travel time before you can teleport is it's not very effective. Actually, spamming number 2 on a dagger, Heartseeker, to move in a straight line is equally effective in terms of initiative spent. But with number 2, you might accidentally hit something and then oops. And I do play with auto-targeting on. I tried with it off, but then It just turned out bad whenever I met another thief and he would go invisible and it wouldn't retarget him when he came invisible again. So I play with it back on now. So, here we are, moving right along. Capped 4 of the 5 sentries, and we're almost to the 5th. As you can see, we still have plenty of time. Not many people out today. This week was pretty crazy. Sea of Sorrows came into Tier 1, or were they already in Tier 1? I don't remember. But they came into this week with a mission. They were on a crusade, and they did not let up at all. Until apparently today, when they disappeared and vanished from the plane of existence we all know as Tyria, or the Mists, whichever we are. And so yeah, they're kind of just nowhere to be seen anymore, whereas yesterday and the day before that and the day before that, they were zerg, 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 zerg everywhere. And it wasn't just like mindless zerg, they had some pretty good squads of people moving out. The response time was exceptional. Jade Quarry was good, but Sea of Sorrows was the server on a mission this week. Yeah, we definitely, Stormbluff definitely got caught in the middle of a little. Jade Quarry was upset about never beating us, and Sea of Sorrows just wanted to beat whoever was number 1. So, I'm not going to say we got teamed up on, because we didn't. I'm fairly certain there was no collaboration between the two, but they definitely did focus on us as opposed to each other. Although Sea of Sorrows, just when we were not there, they had no problem going against Jade Quarry. They were just everywhere. So, my hat off to Sea of Sorrows. All I have to say to them, though, is try that again. We'll see how it turns out this week. I hope it's not because everybody's busy running fractals instead and grinding for Ascended gear instead of worldview-worlding. Because in case anybody's wondering, the Ask Me Anything guy, Chris Whiteside, I believe, he did say that it was a mistake to release Ascended gear, even just certain pieces, only in a dungeon instance, when it's going to be eventually released for everything. So there will be ways of getting Ascended gear beyond fractals soon, he says. Yes, soon, trademark. So I'm not going to worry about Ascended gear at all. I'm going to run fractals because it's fun. But I'm not going to grind on it to get Ascended gear. Especially when one of our guildmates' first ever dungeon run gets a vial of condensed mist essence on a level 1 fractals run. And then he's like, oh, but I need one more, because he's being the guildmate that he is. And then, as he's saying that, he gets another one from a random mob drop, just completely out of the blue. It's enough to make your stomach churn, much like this earth. However, just barely squeak out of that, I believe. This elementalist is definitely fully geared. Obviously, the lady. If you didn't know, you can tell by looking at their rank, or their level. If there's a green arrow beside it, it means they're being upscaled to level 80, and they aren't actually. However, he just has buffs everywhere, but with this many people, his death was a foregone conclusion. I do wonder how that would have worked out, though, in a neutral setting, like if I had ganked him somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, and it just had 1v1. I would have enjoyed that fight, regardless of the outcome, I believe. Now, so, here made a U-turn, and managed to have time to cap supply camp just before clock turnover. So this is really the only time that capturing supply camps actually matters for World v World score, is within the last 4 minutes. So that the guild leader, guild claimer? Yeah. So that the guild claimer has the buff for until points take in your favor. So really there's only a small group can really only capture 2. If they're very lucky and nobody's watching or paying attention, they can sometimes capture 3 supply camps in a 4-minute interval. But yeah, so that's the U-turn. Went through all of them. I think I did it under 11 minutes. And in addition, captured a supply camp, so very good. world v world progression right here. That elementalist sprinted right back out, but he's not interested anymore. Now, I'm not going to run back to the first century even though he's been recapped, because actually I do, and I die, and I get zerged, and it's horrible, so I don't include that. So we're just going to jump straight into the math of century capping. Let's see, we have 3 teams, because we do. And we'll say, for the sake of argument, that Team 1 currently holds a century. This can be switched around for any combination. There are 2 possibilities. Team 2 or Team 3 will capture the century, because Team 1 can't recap it. If Team 2 captures it, they will immediately gain 1 point. Whereas, this is the same thing, just different, except not. Whereas if Team 3 captures it, Team 3 will receive 1 point. Now, for this to actually give points, Team 1 must then recapture it and gain a point. And then we're back where he started. Same thing if Team 2 captures it, then Team 1 gets it. Now, in a symmetrical world, it would be capped by 1, then 2, then 3, then back to 1, and nobody would score anything. However, because of geography and everything, usually a century will be traded back and forth between 2 points, resulting in every time it goes around a cycle, Team 1 recaptures it. The team that did not contribute anything to that century loses a point. So it's like gaining a point, or subtracting a point from an enemy team. There are 5 centuries in the map, and I just showed you can go through all 5 as a single person, which means you get 5 points per person in a single time interval, which is about 15 minutes. Now there are 6 century supply camps, but you can't capture all 6, I guarantee that. So we'll be generous and say a small group can capture 3 century camps. That's very generous, but we'll go with it. Each of these is worth 5 points, so that's 15 points, but you need probably at least 3 people to even think about doing this. So that's equal to about 5 points. So in the end, capturing centuries with 1 person or capturing supply camps with 3 people, that's supposed to be a char in case you're wondering, is about the same in terms of world v world contribution. They're not the same. There are a whole bunch of variables like how big is the enemy Zerg, how many players, how quickly are they retaking centuries, did you actually manage to squeak that last camp in under the time limit. But it works out pretty close in the end. Thanks for watching.